if you think about it, Aspen had a few of its own style chains, like Chart House, Pour
Yep.
La France, Cookie Munchers. There was a Cookie Munchers here in Portland.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
Port La France and Cookie Munchers, I think, started in Aspen.
yeah, and
And
the Chocolate Factory, Rocky
yeah,
Mountain Chocolate
yeah, I think that
Factory.
started here as well. And
Yeah,
Paradise Bakery, so
yeah.
it's okay if we start to change and they move elsewhere, but
I have
I
to
think
tell you
it's the
a funny story. My mom, she grew up in the Twin Cities. She grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota, and she was a city girl. My dad was a city boy from LA, and they were used to that, but they loved Aspen. They didn't ever want to go anywhere. But there were times when mom, we would go to Denver so she could go to Target Boutique. She called it Target. And she would drop when we would go to Grand Junction. We would stop at a McDonald's. This is before McDonald's was in Aspen, and she would order like 20 cheeseburgers and 20 hamburgers, and then she'd bring them home and pop them in the freezer, and then just eat them over the course of the year. She had to have her McDonald's fix,
Yeah.
So,
I remember those days before McDonald's too. I can't remember if it was Aspen Airways or Rocky Mountain Airways.
Bonanza. It was a private plane. Bonanza Airlines would bring in McDonald's food.
Yeah, you could place an order and they'd fly in some McDonald's food for you. Big treat.
well, I think nowadays they
Evidence that we were asking for this.
the chain stores up there now, I think the rents are so high that they use them as a loss leader or basically a marketing ploy. So say, I don't remember what's up there now, but I remember like Banana Republic was there and things like that. And I think what they were doing is they wanted to have a signature store on the mall, even though they were losing money.
Yeah.
And it was essentially for the folks coming from elsewhere to feel comfortable there.
But Chris, that's a perfect example of what happens when you have a culture that's set up where almost all the stores there are set up that way. Gucci, Prada, you mentioned them, Roger.
So it must work.
They're all set up that way where what happens when all of a sudden Aspen's no longer that place and they'd say, oh, let's go to Switzerland or let's go somewhere else. Or let's say America falls apart and everybody just wants to pull out and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
What is someone like Aspen and all those businesses, how are they going to get, how can you set up another structure like that? There is no mom and pop shop place anymore. You can't have a coffee shop in there unless it's Starbucks. And the Starbucks is really being paid for by Miami.
If that ever happened, though, that would fix itself. The rents
it would
eventually have to come down and those stores would go back.
Yeah. You want to hear an accountant's take on that loss leader
Sure.
theory? Because I believe that. I do believe that's what's going on there. But I think about all those private jets out there. Some of those, at least a few of them, are connected with those stores, I'm sure. And can you imagine the writing off the trip? You've got a house on Red Mountain. You own, one of the fancy stores. You fly in on your jet and you get to write the trip off. So you're depreciating a $60 million aircraft and writing off your trip to Aspen, and because you got a business here.
That's interesting, and they've got one at the beach too, and they do the same thing there. Yeah.
So
you're probably right.
Those jets are giant tax deductions.
Well, that goes along with what I was saying before. I don't think many of the home people now have their name on the deed. The deed is owned by, Banana Republic or Ralph Lauren.
They're all LLCs.
Yeah, it's all owned by LLCs.
Well, and that's
not owned by private people like they used to be.
That's a nefarious thing that Mark Hunt took advantage of when he bought all the downtown real estate for Restoration Hardware. He was buying those under LLCs with just made up names, and that's it's easy to set up an LLC with your attorney and buy property and put in it. So he was able to accumulate a massive amount of downtown retail space, and nobody caught on to what he was doing. If he bought all that property under the name of Restoration Hardware, he wouldn't have gotten very far before somebody said, whoa, what are you doing here? And it's only in the last few months that we found out that Restoration Hardware is trying to build their ecosystem of retail design, and it's like putting in a Disneyland in downtown Aspen for selling furniture and art and fancy meals and whatnot, all with a theme. So that's kind of a disgusting thing that's happening.
Well, I just remember the A-frames, and I go back to that time, and I remember that part. If you were in Aspen at that time, that is sort of the heart and the soul of what that town was, And
Your brothers,
Mountain Chalet, it had some culture,
Yeah. Well, anyone working over there at Pomeroy's, they can just run over across the street to Donnie's Doghouse or Cookie Munchers.
Yeah.